Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to another episode of Wrestle Rewind. I'm your host, Tommy T, joined as usual by Double K to my side and sitting across from me, Smokey Z. So, folks, tonight we have a plethora of things to talk about. Smokey Z, that means a lot.
I was going to say that's an awfully big word.
I know some big words, all right?
So we're going to start right off the bat with what I believe is the hot topic in the wrestling world right now, and that's AEW's Double or Nothing.
Wait, what is that?
Yeah, please. So have either of you guys had the opportunity to watch that event in its entirety yet?
I have not.
No.
So it truly was. I mean, of course, there's several matches that are available on YouTube that you can go watch. The Cody Dustin match is probably the most watched match from that show right now. The Kenny Omega Jericho probably the second most, followed by the Battle Royal for at the I forgot what they called it right at the beginning, but it was without a doubt a stellar event for AEW's very first show. I mean, All In was prior to this, but that wasn't an AEW show.
Right.
That was just something that those guys put together, the Elite put together. So
It's a good word.
it is a good word. Looking at the reality of what we got from Double or Nothing, I mean, the wrestling world is on fire.
Yeah.
Right now. There is a palpable, tense heartbeat to the wrestling industry that we have not seen as a fan in years. I mean, it's been...
no doubt.
It's been... I mean, it's hard to say, but it's been close to 20 years since the death of WCW. Mm-hmm. And this, for the first time in all of that time, I finally feel like there is a real chance of us seeing competing wrestling organizations for the first time in 20 years.
Right. I think the only thing... Well, one, let me backtrack. They answered a really big question. And that was, are they for real? How's it going to be? You know, are they going to be seen as a threat after their first official show?
Right.
I think we answered that with a resounding yes.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think there is a true momentum that they came out of that event with. They've already started to book matches for their second show. TV deal they're going to be putting on their show. It looks like it's probably going to launch at the same time that SmackDown moves to Fox.
Oh, imagine that.
So,
Coincidence?
Perhaps not. But there's several things I want to talk about here. Did you guys get a chance to watch the Cody Rhodes, Dustin?
I saw
Yeah.
Cody talking to him after.
That match, I mean, just that part alone was worth the price of admission.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think just the entire match was worth the $50 or whatever it was to watch the entire show.
So what I gathered from that match and both the other matches on the card was AEW is there to play ball.
Yeah.
They didn't, to quote some of our fellow folks that follow the indie wrestling scene, they didn't half-ass what they were doing.
No.
They looked legit. It felt legit. And it was the first time in a long time that I was able, outside of WWE's NXT programming, this is the first time on a pay-per-view, which I don't know if you guys realize this or not, but they really did focus on this being a pay-per-view. So let's talk about what that means for a second. In the beginning of the Monday Night Wars, when you had pay-per-views,
Yes.
Smokey Z, you were still, running around in diapers at this point, but pay-per-views meant you paid per viewing for the show.
Mm-hmm.
I was around during pay-per-views still.
So, well, they were kind of going away as you got older.
Yeah.
And then, WWE took the veil off and said, no, now we're just going to give it to you on an all-access network.
For $10.
For $10 a month.
Yep.
Cheap plug. But
Unintentional, but cheap plug.
right. Yeah. So the other part of that is that this was truly a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
To go back and watch it now, do you know what it cost you? It's the same thing it cost you that night. $60. $59.99.
Oh, yeah.
It's good, though, because Comcast now has an AEW image to put behind it so that it's not a 2K19 created arena. But
That was funny, though.
It's still $60. So when we talk about the wrestling industry changing overall, what AEW has done now is all they did was for years now, the sticks have been piled on, the kindling was laid. This massive bonfire was being built. And at All In, Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, they struck the match. And then this past Saturday at Double or Nothing, they poured gas on that flame.
Absolutely. I mean, for lack of anything better, they went all in.
Yeah, they did.
They went full frog on this one.
They did go full frog.
They went full frog on this one. But no, I mean, they made no bones about it. That they're here not to compete, not just to play ball, but I think they made no bones about it that they're here to take over.
Yeah.
There were extremely obvious shots taken across the line.
You know, we say that, but the folks from AEW deny that the throne,
right,
that Cody symbolically struck, which I'm going to tell you that was probably my least favorite part of the show because the pyro was so cheaply done.
It wasn't good at all.
On him striking that throne that I'm like, you guys put on this stellar production everywhere except for that. But that's really the only criticism I have.
Yeah, I mean, there's not another real criticism that you could have.
Cody Dustin, probably the bloodiest match I've seen since Taker Lesnar first Hell in a Cell.
It's been a while.
Yeah, the mat was covered.
Yeah, I mean, it was...
It's like you're watching a UFC fight or something.
Yeah.
It was one of the best performances from both of those guys. The beginning of the match, I felt like both of them had a little bit of nerves issues. You could see it, that there was a couple of missteps.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's expected given what they were trying to do and what was riding on this event. Let's be real. If this event had failed, AEW would have been a laughing joke of the wrestling world on Monday morning.
100%. That's like going for it on 4th and 5.
Right.
You know, if you get it, you're a genius. Everything is phenomenal. You're the greatest mind ever. And if you fail, everybody's like, what an idiot.
Yeah.
You know, what are you doing? Why would you even think to do that?
And if you think, so you can judge how well they did by WWE's acknowledgement. So if WWE would have came out and acknowledged them, then it would have been a waiver of saying, well, they didn't do so great.
We're not worried about it.
Yeah. But the fact that WWE is steering clear of any... Triple H won't even comment on the throne situation.
Well, if they comment on it,
they're
acknowledging, hey, we've got a problem here. This is a threat, and we need to do something about it.
I actually have that part about the throne on our run sheet because he was asked about it, and he completely dodged the question and just moved on.
You know, a good friend of ours and I were talking about, hey, this is the Monday after AEW. It's not the Monday Night Raw after... or for Memorial Day. This is the one following AEW. Wonder what they're going to do. And it was... I don't need them to acknowledge it. I thought maybe they would step their game up just a little bit on Monday night. And it, in my opinion, they took steps back on Monday.
So I'm going to write a number on this paper. You see what that number is?
I do.
Smokey Z, you see what that number is?
Yep.
So just so the camera can see it. The number is what?
40.
40. Do you know what that number is? That is the amount of minutes on Monday Night Raw when it launched before you saw actual wrestling matches. The first 40 minutes of Monday Night Raw contained no matches. Help me understand that.
No, I can't because it was bad. I mean, Lesnar out there. Now I get it.
We're going to talk about him a little bit later on.
I know.
But
it just
what I think is interesting here is I felt like this was WWE's opportunity to come out swinging in return.
Sure, it was.
You know, after the surprise, not really surprise arrival of Jon Moxley. But with that being there, and then him coming out later on this week, which we're going to talk about his podcast with Jericho. But this was their opportunity to fire a shot back across, and it's as if they just completely ignored it. Like it didn't happen.
Well, I sent you guys a picture of a sign in the crowd.
Yeah.
And the fan holding the sign up, it says, "I feel like you're not even trying." And I think it's pretty clear and pretty evident that at least from Monday night, that they weren't even trying on Monday night. That was one of the most phoned in Monday Night Raws I've seen in a long time. And we've seen several lately that are just like...
Some of them which followed atrocious pay-per-views.
Yeah. And so it's like, what are you doing? And then we get that on Monday night. I'm like, oh my God. Like, it's bad. It's almost like now they don't know what to do.
Well, I think that... I think there's a real sense now that the wrestling world has evolved over the past 5, 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. And it's truly taken off in the past 2 to 4. And now we're in a situation where I don't know that Vince knows what to do. Now, my hope is that this reignites his flame for what he was able to do in the Monday Night Wars. Because let's face it, if it wasn't for Vince McMahon, we'd all be watching WCW right now.
Right. This is true.
Yeah.
However, I think if you look at Vince McMahon's WWF or E, and you look at the type of performer every other promotion known to man that is popular and thriving and doing well, look at the difference in the performers. Vince McMahon is the Hulk Hogan type booker. Like he likes the big guy that's got the gigantic muscular look. You know, you look at NXT. NXT doesn't really have that.
No.
Look at AEW. They don't have that.
No.
That I can remember, that I can really think of. They don't have anybody anywhere close to that.
No.
No.
You know, I think if it wasn't for Hunter really having some influence now, it would be 1980s wrestling just about.
Big,
with
huge dudes.
Yeah. You know, and you're talking about the evolution of wrestling. That's Bret Hart would absolutely destroy it in today's world. If he was in his prime right now, like, he fits this mold.
Well, sure. And
probably better than he did in a Hall of Fame career.
How about Bret Hart coming out to introduce the AEW world title?
I was actually about to bring that up.
Again, look at the shots that were fired from AEW, intentional or unintentional. These were gigantic shots that were fired.
So the shots being fired and WWE didn't retaliate. I read an interesting report earlier today from some of the fans that were in attendance at Monday and Tuesday's show for SmackDown and Raw that said that they had signs. There were signs that were to the effect of "Save us, Triple H."
Yeah.
That were confiscated by WWE security because they didn't want them being seen. Now, I wasn't there. I don't know if that's truthful, but there are multiple.
It makes sense.
There are multiple reports coming out that was something that happened. Now, WWE confiscates signs for a variety of different reasons.
Sure.
We've talked about this as back when the T-shirt thing started, of them making people change their shirts that had AEW T-shirts in the crowd. My stance from the business side of it is, why would I want to advertise my a rival company?
It makes sense.
Yeah, I get that.
It. Yeah.
But to have them take signs that say "Save us, Triple H," I mean, where are we at?
I think,
where do we stand?
I think we're. It's hard for me to sit here and say we're in need of a changing of the guard, but I think that's where we are.
Well, but Vince isn't going to do that. I mean, we know that. The guy's going to die probably in the gorilla position.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that. I don't
doubt it.
Some of it, I think, is a pride issue, but here's the business side of it. If you're him, you don't want to let go. And the reason why is the statement I made just a little while ago, and that is, without Vince McMahon, the WWE that we have today doesn't exist.
Well, that's true. But the WWE that we have today isn't going to survive.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily that they won't survive. I just think that they're going to have to reach a point where, one, they need to acknowledge that AEW is competition, first and foremost.
Sure they do. Because they acknowledged WCW.
Right.
And look at what that did.
And went after them.
Right.
And I don't think...
Like AEW isn't even there.
Well, I don't think that you're going to see... Well, I think part of that is there's some sore feelings.
Yeah, I think some feelings definitely
We saw
got
some,
hurt.
We saw some... here's what I have to say. If you're Cody Rhodes, what you did probably burned any bridge you thought existed.
Oh, you think?
And so he...
They exploded.
I think it exploded with that bad pyro.
He put everything he had on the line.
Yeah.
With that one act. Because they can say, well, it was symbolic of destroying the structure of what's expected. I mean, you had a replica of Triple H's cross.
It was an exact replica, and they started yelling, "The king is dead."
Right.
Come on.
So, I even also read an article the other day from a not so, we'll call him an infamous wrestling name, and that's Vince Russo. Put out an article the other day, and what he said was he believes that AEW is secretly being supported by WWE because of the need for competition to revive their own brand. So I don't know what the backside of it looks like. I don't know what the inner workings are of WWE. None of us at this table do.
Well, no.
They would never come out and say that publicly regardless.
No, not at all.
But if you're Vince and they're true competition and you use the skulls, the throne, and Hunter's cross, I'm coming after you for copyright infringement.
Well,
because
do something.
Right, because you've used something that is a likeness, and I know a little bit about this given recent avenues.
We may have heard a little bit about this
here
recently.
If there's a likeness to what you're doing, and it is trademarked or copyrighted, it is protected. Now, granted, I'm pretty sure Tony Khan would say, how much money do you want to make this go away?
Right.
And that would be the end of the conversation.
Sure.
But if WWE doesn't pursue that, what does that say? Does it say they're supporting them? Does it say that they had a hand in it? Because do we know whether or not Cody Rhodes picked up the phone, called Hunter, and said, hey, this is what we're thinking of doing. Are you guys okay with it?
There's no way to know.
Right.
There's only a handful.
But if you're... So think about this, and the only reason why I'm going to even bring this up is because you guys know how much of a fan I am of Vince McMahon being a businessman.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the ingenious that would be behind that.
Oh, it would be amazing.
For him to say, well, yeah, we had a hand in that. We helped him plan it. I mean, again, the guy spent 4 years building a storyline for fans to root for Roman Reigns and hate Brock Lesnar, and everybody ended up doing exactly what he wanted them to do, and it took him 4 years to do it.
That's right. That's right. I don't know.
Well, none of us know. We
No,
don't know.
I mean, obviously.
It's all speculation. It's just conversation. We don't know that any of this is true.
For me, as a pure wrestling fan, I would enjoy it more if I were to know the truth. If they just did it. If it was spontaneous and they were like, hey, let's throw a Triple H throne out there and let me smash it with a sledgehammer.
Right. The symbolic
absolutely.
nature
See,
of
I
the
love
action.
it. I absolutely loved it. And this is where, when we do things like what we're doing right now, we read everything, we listen to everything, we watch all the shows, we watch the podcast, we do all this research. And then we hear something like that, and I'm like, oh, man, I really hope not. Because the true wrestling fan in me, when I saw it, was like,
it was like a big...
It was amazing. It was amazing. It was great.
So then you fast forward to... Well, you fast forward to the next night on Raw, and what does Sami Zayn do? Sami Zayn drops.
Commits career suicide?
If it was truly viewed that way by WWE, then that's what it was.
I will say this, and this is going to be a big statement for me.
Are you going to give Sami Zayn credit for something?
Not really give him credit, but that was
cool.
That was the coolest thing he's ever done.
Well, I mean, it's
and I hope again it was spontaneous. That was the first time I can say, as a non-Sami Zayn fan, that he's done anything that made my jaw drop.
So,
unlike him flopping like a fish.
That just makes me shudder and close my eyes and not want to watch it. And say la 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 la, so I don't have to pay attention.
The name drop of AEW was the closest thing we got to an acknowledgement of AEW, but on the behalf of.
Well,
WWE.
it was an acknowledgement.
Well, absolutely. But if indeed it wasn't planned, then I'm afraid Sami Zayn probably did commit career suicide. I know you're saddened to hear that.
Wah wah wah.
So, but. He probably committed, if that's the case, WWE career suicide, but he may have just put himself on a pecking order.
He submitted a resume.
Right, to get into AEW. But I'm going to go back to a point that Chris Jericho and Cody Rhodes both made, and that was that all of these WWE guys that think that they can just jump ship and go to AEW need to think again, because they're looking for a particular style of wrestler. They're looking for a particular format.
Right.
And they're looking for folks that are going to contribute to their mission.
Mm-hmm.
If you're expecting to go to AEW and be a WWE superstar, I'm afraid you're mistaken, because it doesn't look like that's what you're going to do.
Well, no, I mean that.
Wrong.
Yeah, I mean it's so far in the opposite direction, in my opinion, of WWE. They have what they've done a phenomenal job of is separating themselves and differentiating themselves as far as who they are as a company. And this is where I have to give them credit, and I have to take credit away from WWE. I truly believe that AEW, for those reasons you just mentioned, knows who they are as a company. They know what they want to be. They know what their mission is, and they know what they want to accomplish. I 100% cannot say that I feel that very same way about WWE. I feel like right now they're lost in the weeds.
Okay.
I feel like, it reminds me of Smokey Z trying to type a letter. I feel like Monday night, Tuesday night, and pay-per-views, or special shows on the network once a month, they're hunt and peck shows.
Right.
They can't find the H and they can't find the Q, so they just throw some stuff out there and hope it makes sense.
Well, and maybe that's the case. Maybe that's what we're going to get with WWE now. Maybe it's not. I don't really know what we're going to get long-term from them and from, WWE competing with them.
Right.
But all I'm going to say is that I'm going to quote the big guy here, and I'm going to say if what we saw on Saturday from AEW at Double or Nothing is what we're going to get every time they put on a pay-per-view, feed me more.
Oh, that big guy.
That big guy.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out which big guy you were talking about.
I wasn't sure.
Feed me more.
No, absolutely. And I feel like if we keep getting that on their pay-per-view shows, obviously that's creating massive momentum going into their weekly episodic venture that we've got coming later in the year.
But we don't even know what that's going to look like yet.
Well,
because remember, they don't have storylines.
Right. So you can't. I think one thing that we have learned through the years, you can't have, or you could, I guess, if you really wanted to, you can't have a pay-per-view every single week, or pay-per-view quality every single week.
No.
So is that where they get lost? Time will tell. We don't know.
Right.
I mean, again, 100% speculation right now.
Sure.
But the way that they absolutely killed it on Saturday, we have to speculate about that.
Yeah.
Can you keep that up every single week after week after week after week? Or is it going to be one of those things where they get lost, they, storylines fall off, they have a hard time creating a storyline, and here's WWE.
Just continuing right on that level playing field.
Cruising right along, and they don't elevate, they don't decline, they just stay the same.
Well, and I think
that gives Vince a "I told you so."
Well, and I think that's if you really think about the entire process, that's really all they have to do is stay the same. Because let's face it, even as AEW emerges onto the scene, WWE is still here.
Well, sure, absolutely. WWE
and
is
AEW is still here.
You know, it's
not that that's quality. I'm not talking about quality. I'm just talking about in the wrestling world, you haven't earned your keep yet.
No, it's not. It's not a David and Goliath thing.
No,
it is a, to use your visual there. WWE is the mountain.
Absolutely.
And AEW's down here at the bottom of it, just starting to climb.
Right. Now, their ability to continue to perform the way they did this past Saturday will determine how fast...
Could make it a faster climb.
That climb.
But nonetheless, what do you do when you get to the top?
Well...
If you get to the top, now what do you do? Because now you're face-to-face with Vince McMahon.
So there was a long time ago, I had a mentor of mine tell me that when you have a goal, you don't look at the mountain in front of you, you look straight at the top.
Sure. So
for me, provided WWE's not behind the entire organization, which I'm going to tell you personally, I believe that they're not.
Right. I'm with you.
I think that Cody Rhodes and the throne situation, that was Cody looking directly at the top and taking a swing.
Sure.
I may not be able to reach you yet, but I'm already stepping in your footprints to get to where you've been. Because who sat on that throne symbolically? It's Triple H.
Absolutely.
From several years ago. Now they've used modified versions of that in recent years. You had the Mad Max style entrance that occurred this past year at MetLife Stadium. But you think about what that symbolism says to the wrestling world, and that was, I mean, here's where I got stuck. You ready? Stardust hit Triple H's throne with a sledgehammer.
That was not Cody Rhodes, though.
That was
Stardust.
That's where I would have agreed with you had he not done the whole hand gesture and cartwheel during his match with his brother.
Yeah.
Openly acknowledging his former character, which I'm cool with. Good for him. But when I saw it and I was like, oh, why couldn't you just leave that out? Why'd you have to reinvent that? Why did you have to bring it back?
It's one of those you got caught in the moment kind of things, and then, hey.
Well, he need to forget
you know
that
what?
moment.
It happened.
It did happen.
There's no taking it back now.
No?
It's out there.
So let's progress this a little bit further, and let's talk about the guy that showed up at the end of the night. The guy who we speculated...
the artist formerly known
as Dean Ambrose, now back to his original in-ring name, Jon Moxley. So he did a podcast this week with Jericho, which if you haven't had the chance to go out and listen to that podcast, please do so. If you want to hear, I never cared for CM Punk. You guys know that?
I haven't noticed.
But what he did after he left the company and he went on to Colt Cabana's podcast.
Take your time and enunciate.
I don't like you.
I'm just trying to help.
And pretty much just bashed WWE, threw him under the bus. I mean, he went after Chris Amon, the Doctor. He went after Triple H. He went after Vince McMahon. All of these things, I don't have the same animosity towards Jon Moxley, Dean Ambrose, whatever you want to call John Goodman, whatever it is you want to call him. He did it very professionally. Because he talked about the things he was frustrated. He talked about why he made the decision to leave the company because he didn't agree with some of the stuff they were asking him to do. In particular, the Roman Reigns cancer. I mean, there was so many things that he talked about that you could just tell that he made the decision to say, I don't want to be part of this.
Right. And that's fair. I mean,
So he didn't do a CM Punk and bury the company. He just said, this is where they wanted to go. I didn't want to go there, so I elected not to. Made the decision, said he wasn't going to. He didn't walk out in the middle of his contract.
true.
You know, CM Punk gets eliminated from the Royal Rumble and then just doesn't show up again. Because let's be real, that's what happened.
True.
He got eliminated from the Royal Rumble. That was the last time you saw CM Punk in a WWE ring.
So what you're saying is we need to get Sami Zayn eliminated from the Royal Rumble.
And he'll disappear.
I don't know if that's quite how that works.
Just checking. It was a
But
shot.
You look at
Worth a shot.
you look at what that conversation looked like for John Moxley and him talking about the fact that he told WWE that he wasn't going to renew his contract because he had a movie commitment as he was leaving the company. He didn't tell them that that movie commitment was to film his John Moxley video to announce his change of character.
So that being said, did he really do it the right way? Did he really do it professionally?
He did it more tasteful than CM Punk
I'll
did.
give you more tasteful. I'll give you that.
Well, but he didn't lie to him.
No, he didn't. But
He told
I
them
mean,
he did not
Just didn't tell him
want.
the whole truth.
He just right.
He left a few details out.
Right.
But again, he worked until his last
He
contractually
did.
obligated
He
day.
did, and he worked well.
Yep. He didn't come out there and give a half-ass wrestling show. He still went out there and performed
It's true.
because that's what the fans expected from him.
Mm-hmm.
He just didn't agree with the direction the company was asking him to
And
go.
that's fair. I have no problems with the reasons he left. I have no qualms, no problems at all.
And
And
how about what
I
they-
don't blame him either.
How about what they paid him for the final chapter of The Shield? Did you see that? Did you see how much they paid him? $500.
What?
That's what they paid him for that final chapter of The Shield special that ran. $500. So Dean Ambrose is worth $500 to you. That's what I'm hearing.
But you've got to understand they had to take a parting shot.
well, sure.
That's just what they do.
that sure.
That's because they gave him.
But if you were trying to hold on to him,
It'd be more than $500.
Let's rewind to the beginning of this show. What did that sign say? It doesn't even feel like you're trying.
that's fair.
Yeah.
And that's not.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like they're not trying.
Yeah.
Because how many stars have left that company over the years, and that's 30 years back, and Vince says, okay, it sucks we lost you, but we'll make another one.
Well, because so this is where I get frustrated, and this is where
This is what you said last week, where they just keep throwing the same thing, just different people.
right. It's the same storyline. It's just different people, different
Refiltered.
styles of the same storyline.
Sure.
But I'm even going to go one step further this week, and I'm going to talk about the fact that here's what I like about AEW. I will always be the person that says when CM Punk went to the UFC, he only got that opportunity because of what WWE did for him. The Rock is a movie star only because of what WWE did for him.
Absolutely.
Stone Cold Steve Austin can retire with his busted up neck and have a television show called Broken Skull Ranch and a podcast
Great show, by the way.
because of what WWE did for him.
Well, absolutely.
Hulk Hogan is still relevant 35 years later because of what WWE did for him. So let's pull that back a little bit further. Each one of those, you could replace WWE with Vince McMahon. Each one of those individuals. So I'm going to say the unpopular opinion.
Uh-oh.
Cody Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes wouldn't be where they are if it wasn't for WWE. They gave them a chance. Cody suffered on the low card. He was on pre-shows for so long before he got the Stardust character, which actually brought him up
Yeah.
to competing on main level shows. None of this is a judgment on their talent. There's no question there. No question there on their talent. But what I like about AEW is, so let's be real, Chris Jericho wouldn't be a draw for AEW if it wasn't for WWE.
Oh, no doubt. Because
now,
they rescued him many years ago from the cruiserweight
Right.
division in WCW.
But what's glorious about all of this, cheap plug there for Bobby Roode,
Glorious.
is the fact that the other part of that equation, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, every other guy on that card at AEW, with the exception of Cody Rhodes, Dustin Rhodes, and Chris Jericho, they didn't come from WWE.
Nope.
They were born and bred in the indie levels of the wrestling world, from state to state, bingo hall to firehouse, firehouse to county fairs. And now they're showing pay-per-views to the world and looking at just 6 months being on their own national television program. WWE didn't breed those guys. They didn't create the character. And into his own regard, the character, the American Nightmare, wasn't created
No.
by WWE.
No, every bit of that evolved post WWE.
Right. That came from Cody. Mm-hmm. That came from who he is, his ability as a wrestling performer. So I give him 100% credit for that. But that's the difference between AEW and WCW. If you watched the Monday Night Wars for 5 years, you watched wondering who was going to show up the next night on what show.
Right.
And it was back and forth the whole time. Well, you still have that anticipation now, but it's not the same people that are going to be moving back and forth. Chris Jericho, John Moxley, Cody Rhodes, Dustin Rhodes, that's 4 guys on a roster of 40 guys that came from WWE. The other 36, born and bred in the Indies. Guess what WWE can't say? That 75% of their roster was born and bred in the Indies.
That's right.
Guess what WWE can't say? That they don't use family pedigrees to put people on a pedestal. Guess what?
Or hold people back.
Or hold people back. They can't say that. AEW can. I love the fact that Cody Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes competed. There was no title on the line. Mm-hmm. When was the last time?
And it was an unbelievable match.
When was the last time we got to see a WWE match with no title on the line that you were bought into?
Oh, it's been a while. Like I don't even need to hesitate to answer that one.
You know what? I'm going to tell you the last one for me, and I mean it sincerely. The last one that took place that meant something to me was Brock Lesnar, Undertaker, Hell in a Cell 2. That storyline was built over the course of a year. We got to see it at SummerSlam. Mm-hmm. The return at Battleground from the Dead Man. SummerSlam match. Then Hell in a Cell. That wasn't a title match, but it meant something. Yeah. And if you want to go back before that, it was Undertaker Triple H 2 in a Hell in a Cell, Shawn Michaels special guest referee. No title on the line, but it meant something.
That was an awesome match. Too.
Sure it did.
It meant something. Dustin Rhodes, Cody Rhodes meant something. Everybody said that it was a WrestleMania-style match. Well, that's because you're putting WrestleMania as the crown jewel of the wrestling industry.
Is that another cheap plug?
Unfortunately. But in reality, all it was a match that needed to take place in a ring.
Yeah. But it's a match that should have. I think where people are coming from with the WrestleMania comparison, or the should have been there, is that it's just a match that should have happened. Period. Anywhere.
Well, yes, but it's still the problem with WWE and that WrestleMania pedestal is that as long as the world keeps comparing WrestleMania to being the crown jewel, the ultimate goal for the wrestling world, the problem is that the fact that you see a difference between wrestling at WrestleMania and wrestling on Monday Night Raw, that's the problem.
That is the problem. I agree.
Because it shouldn't matter. The quality of the matches should be the same.
Or hell, just matches in general. How long did it take to get into a match?
40 minutes.
40
on Monday
minutes.
Night Raw. 40 minutes on Monday Night Raw before you got to see a wrestling match.
Ridiculous.
And it wasn't even that great of a match.
Well, no.
Again, like I said, this past Monday was one of the most phoned-in shows that I've seen
And so
ever.
I've already started to identify what I don't like about the wild card rule. Do you know what that is?
All of it.
Well, yes, but do you know what it is more importantly? Is the fact that you're seeing the same people on both shows.
Yeah.
So what the hell are you going to do with the rest of the roster? Sit around and wait for their contracts to expire so they can go to AEW?
That's what they've been doing so far.
I mean, Shinsuke Nakamura, arguably one of the most talented guys on their roster.
Mm-hmm.
So what if he can't speak great English? He's still super talented.
Yeah.
And you're wasting him.
No, he's
You know,
wasted.
you let Ronda Rousey get behind a microphone even though she couldn't talk. She was super talented, and you still let her run your women's division. Why? Because she was Ronda Rousey.
Right.
So just because Shinsuke doesn't have that name, he's super talented and you're not going to do anything with him?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could go down the list from person to person to person, but that doesn't change the fact that it's not going to change until WWE forces the culture change to get past that.
But so far, they don't have to. That's what sucks, is they don't have to.
No.
They haven't been pushed yet. They got shoved a little bit on Saturday. But I said this, it was either last week on this show or it was the week before. I said that I don't believe just one show, no matter how great it is from AEW, is not going to force anybody's hand.
Well, no.
They need to do it again in June.
It's got to be sustainable.
They got to do it again in June. But I even think their pay-per-views, it's not going to matter. What's going to matter is when they get on the weekly show. That's when it's going to matter to Vince. Because you know what that takes away from, potentially? Our ratings. And what were the Monday Night Wars all about? Ratings. So, the pay-per-views, I honestly don't think Vince, yes, they're going to watch it. They're going to pay attention to it. They're going to put it over here and pay attention to this pile. Pay-per-views will not affect WWE's rating at all. If anything, what their successful pay-per-views are going to do right now, potentially, is drive Monday night's ratings up because people are like, oh, how are they going to respond? What's going to go on? What are they going to do? Are they going to respond? Are they going to acknowledge?
Well, so far the answer to that's been nothing.
Well, no. They flopped.
Yeah, nothing.
On Monday. It was just bad.
So
my question is, if they keep putting on pay-per-views like they did this past Saturday, and they continue to flop like they do, how many people you think are going to be like, well, since they're not going to do anything and this is more entertaining to watch, I'm just going to go over here.
But it's just a pay-per-view right now, so if you are
there's nothing that they're stealing from right now. I agree with you. It becomes real.
Right. When it's weekly.
And even then, I don't think it's as big of a deal because they're not on the same night.
Well, like I said, that's what I'm saying. It's going to it's all really going to depend. But I don't think pay-per-views...
Not yet, anyway.
Right, no.
So here's what I think.
Pay-per-views aren't going to
Here's what I
force
think does change.
anything.
If you're a shareholder for WWE, which this matters to me,
Sure.
is what point do you decide that you have to do something when people are more willing to go pay $60 to watch one show than pay you $10 to watch multiple? At what point do you start asking yourself that question? Because that's really the fundamental that this is going to be built upon. $60 for one show that you can only watch one time.
Unless you want to spend another $60.
Well, exactly.
Right. But I bet you there's people out there that did it.
Probably.
Oh, I'm thinking about getting it tomorrow.
I bet you there's people out there that have already watched it twice and they paid to watch it twice. And if you're one of those people that wants to rip it off and record it from your television and then share it to somebody, I'm going to tell you that you're doing a disservice to both the performers and the companies that put those productions on because you're ripping them off by not paying to watch their product. Double K, myself, we still, when we went to an indie show this past weekend, we were broadcasting live from it. but your kids went with us, we still paid for their tickets so that they could watch the show. Because it's the right thing to do. If you're ripping people off by illegally videotaping their product and then distributing it, you don't even claim yourself as a wrestling fan at that point. Because you're not doing anything to support those performers. You're not doing anything to contribute to their ability to make a living. In fact, you're hurting it.
Well, yeah, you're taking money out of their pocket.
You and I have made a point.
By not putting any in, you're taking it out.
You and I have made it a point, even on our other show, we've made it a point to make sure that doesn't happen with our show.
Right.
We are still going to contribute. We've partnered with indie shows to get them sponsors. Mm-hmm. We've partnered with them to ensure that, whether it be plugging their events or broadcasting live from their events, advertising their events, doing everything we can to support them. When we go, some of the shows that we've been to, they don't even make us pay for our photo ops and signing opportunities with the superstars that they bring in. But guess what we still do?
We still pay.
We still pay for it. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. So that was my soapbox moment on that. So,
that was just a PSA moment. We're good.
That's right. So let's go ahead and move on. And you mentioned earlier watching Brock dance in the ring with the briefcase, which if you notice, it had speakers on it this week.
Right. I'm actually going to elaborate on that a little bit more.
Okay.
Because
right.
we were just now talking about WWE recycling storylines and old acts.
Yep.
So I'm thinking about Lesnar and thinking about that conversation. We just got back around to the new Scotty 2 Hottie.
A lot bigger.
Mm-hmm. Paul Heyman was Rikishi in the corner playing the air guitar. Right?
That's fair.
And Brock was, Scotty dancing. The only thing we were missing was the worm.
That's fair.
That's it. I mean, now, all jokes aside, it's pretty neat to see Lesnar doing something a little bit different and actually having fun. But at the same time,
so serious
at the same time, though, following up AEW is now the time?
Well,
is now really the time for it?
Here's my response to that. It's never the time to watch Brock Lesnar wear a hoodie with a Money in the Bank briefcase that has speakers on it, jamming like he's walking down a street.
Well, his running man looked like yours.
And I'm not sure how I feel about that. But,
we're not sure how we feel about it either.
So, here's what Paul Heyman was asked about that this week. And they asked him, how can you tell us, or what was the deal with Brock, the stereo briefcase? And his response was, he said, that's literally just Brock being Brock. Mm. And he said that with Brock Lesnar's UFC retirement, official now, that he just wants to have fun in WWE.
And that's cool.
He wants to be around and he wants to have fun.
You know what it reminds me of, though? Before he left.
Yeah.
Because that's how he was before he left. He was just having fun.
He was just having fun.
Mm-hmm.
He was having fun when he threw The Undertaker around like a rag doll the first time in a Hell in a Cell, which... Before this past Saturday, that was the bloodiest match I had ever seen.
Right.
Because he hit The Undertaker with those steps in that match. And I don't know if you remember or not, but he was bleeding like a stuck pig.
He was gashed.
All over the place. So, that was the bloodiest match I had ever seen. That was taken over this past Saturday. But, if Brock's going to be around regularly, I'm okay with it.
Well, no, I'm okay with... I want him to be around regularly.
Right. If you're going to use him, have him around regularly. Now, I don't think that takes away from his special attraction as a performer.
Well, no, because I believe this will be short-lived.
What do you mean?
The boombox carrying, running man dancing.
Yeah.
We'll call that dance, the Tommy T.
Oh, no, I thought it was pretty funny when you smacked Paul Heyman in the face.
No, that was funny when he realized that I've got a year. And he smacks Heyman in the face with the contract, the Money in the Bank actual contract.
Right.
He hits him right in the face with it. That was funny, but I don't I think we're going to get back to the Beast here before too long. I just don't see this fun-loving, happy-go-lucky Brock Lesnar.
Well, it's not fitting.
It's not. It was, like I said, it was cool to see.
They've
was funny.
spent 5 years building him as the Beast.
Like a freaking monster, right? But
and now you've put him.
There's another thing that has been repeated over and over and over. Rusev, when he first came in, they made him this unbeatable guy. And
well, I mean, they've done that with so many people. They've done it with Braun Strowman.
Exactly.
You have to have the unbeatable guy. I think where I agree with you more on Rusev's character is he was the unbeatable foreign superstar.
Yeah.
You know, that was born of Rocky IV.
Bulgarian brute.
Right. That was born the super athlete. You know, all that stuff probably goes back to Rocky IV.
Well, yeah.
When we first saw Drago, the super athlete.
And then you stuck him with Aiden English.
Yeah. Who now is commentating on 205 Live.
Yeah.
And he was completely bald.
Well, that's fair.
Well,
I mean,
like you.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say but so much because I'm there. So, moving right along in our run sheet here, I do want to talk briefly about Stone Cold Steve Austin actually just got a significant pay raise from WWE. Unknown what for, but he has received a significant pay raise from WWE.
Because we don't know what for.
Right.
Largely speculating. Bret Hart did hand over the title. He did present the title belt to AEW in AEW.
Yes, he did.
How would it look if arguably your top superstar of all time showed up on another promotion? Retired or not, how would that look if all of a sudden Steve Austin pops up on an AEW program?
Well, I think Bret Hart alone legitimized a little bit.
That's what I'm saying.
Austin would be... I mean, I would put Austin, Rock, and Hogan. For me, those are three of the four faces on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling.
Absolutely.
The fourth will always be up in debate of who the fourth should be. But those are at least three of the faces.
I think those are locks.
On the Mount Rushmore of wrestling. And if any of those individuals were to show up in AEW, well, except for Hogan, because we saw what happened to TNA when he showed up there.
Maybe Vince sends him to AEW.
No, that's Vince Russo.
Take him out, boys.
That's Vince Russo.
True.
Although the recently released Dean Malenko, guess who is now a full-time in production for AEW?
Yeah.
Dean Malenko. Arn Anderson was asked if he had been contacted regarding or contracting with AEW. He had not. So that was as recently as 2 days ago that conversation took place. So we'll see where he ends up, if he ends up anywhere. Nevertheless, if we look at Steve Austin getting that pay raise, I think some will speculate that he's going to have something else to do. I think that you're absolutely right that it probably has something to do with them trying to keep him from going somewhere else.
Well,
but
right
he
now
also
there's only really one other place he would go.
He also did get a USA Network television special that's going to start airing this summer. So that could also be why he got that raise. And that's going to be tied into the Steve Austin show.
Right.
But also in the news this week, Daniel Bryan made the statement that WWE's tag team division is the best it's ever been. And I don't think that's an accurate... From a fan's perspective...
Could not disagree with that more.
From a fan's perspective, I do not feel that way, because you're telling me that the current WWE tag team division is better than having the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, and the Hardy Boys running the tag team division. I just don't see that.
Well, let's not forget Legion of Doom. Let's not forget Demolition. Let's not forget the Powers of Pain and
the Headbangers.
The Headbangers. I mean, we could sit here and name probably 30 tag teams right now that the current division, with the exception of a couple teams, Usos, the Revival, they couldn't even tie their damn boots, man.
No. Well, and I'm going to be honest with you, except for those few tag teams, I couldn't even tell you the names of the rest of them.
No.
I think Rack Zider's on one team.
There are at least 5 times a day that I loathe you as a human being. This is one of those moments.
Right now. Right now. In front of everybody.
So I do disagree with Daniel Bryan. That's from a fan's perspective. If he's a WWE superstar and that's how he feels, I understand that. But as a fan, my sole opinion is that I don't agree with that statement.
I feel like from his standpoint, it would be easy to say that if you're carrying titles on one of the shows, which they are.
Right.
It certainly isn't the best it's ever been because of your tag team, Daniel Bryan. Because your tag team really doesn't make a lot of sense. You popped up with Eric Rowan one day, and then all of a sudden you lose your title, your WWE title that looked like it used to hold McDonald's cups through a drive-thru.
That's accurate.
I mean, that's exactly what it looked like.
And it had some fish tank stones glued around it.
Tish Fink?
Moving on.
Is this number 2 today?
That's number 2.
Okay.
So also in the news, one of my favorite Attitude Divas, Terry Runnels, was arrested this week.
Speaking of the Rhodes family.
So, hopefully she won't follow in the same footsteps as, what was the other one? Sunny.
I was going to say, you could go in a lot of directions here, yeah.
Last time that Sunny got arrested, when she got out of incarceration, she made a porn.
Well, she had she had a pay-per-view porn site.
Yeah. And,
that didn't go well.
No bueno. Mm-hmm. So, let's just hope that's not the case here. But she was arrested. She did release a statement. I have not had a chance to look at that. But moving on to additional news,
You know what I just realized that we have not talked about?
What?
Ashley. Her past.
Ashley Mazzaro.
Yeah.
That was a sad day in the wrestling world. Her
Yes, it
death
was.
officially ruled a suicide.
Mm-hmm.
I just realized that
I'm actually
we had talked about it in our group
Because we didn't know at the time we talked about it. We didn't know.
but
Yeah.
among the show we had never brought it up.
No.
It was one of those circumstances where she tried to. A lot of people got into a stir over her affidavit that she filed against WWE regarding how she was treated overseas at one of those tours, that she had been harassed and I believe sexually assaulted, and that Vince McMahon and WWE swept it under the rug. And she actually, the gentleman that the attorney that assisted with her filing that lawsuit, when it went to court, the whole lawsuit was thrown out of the courts. And she actually wrote a letter to WWE this past fall apologizing for that, and that she didn't really know or understand enough before the affidavit was made as to what was going to happen after that took place. I wasn't there. I don't know. I would certainly hope and want to believe that WWE would never sweep something like that under the rug. I don't believe we live in a society today where you could get away with it.
No.
Regardless of how powerful you are, I don't believe you could get away with it because
I think that's been proven recently.
All it would take is for one person to find out about it, and then it would be over. I mean, it would be all out, and there'd be no hiding it. But regardless, she was one that was taken far too soon. She was actively training for an in-ring return.
Yeah.
I just hope that it wasn't something that came from WWE that led to her demise. And I don't mean that as WWE doing anything.
There's been some speculation recently with her looking into the CTE. Her family, the last I read about it, her family was deciding whether or not they would release her brain for CTE testing. I don't know if they've agreed to do that or not. But, I mean, that's a possibility, man.
Sure. Regardless, it's never... as a wrestling fan, it's never time for any of them. For us as fans, we will never be able to just acknowledge that it's time for someone to pass away, and I think that's true of life in general.
Sure.
Right.
But when you lose someone at such a young age that still had the ability to entertain and perhaps make a comeback, it's just heartbreaking that she didn't get that opportunity. Whether it be with WWE, AEW, or anywhere, it would have been a sight for her to come out of retirement.
Absolutely.
And return to the ring. So
she used to be one of my favorites.
I was in love with that girl, man, when she was around, and that was before she did Playboy. I was in love with her.
Back when you were in your 30s.
But this is the third time that I hate you. Just remember, you're almost 10 years older than me, so...
Hey, just know nobody's going to know that.
He got you there.
That's fair.
Hey, but I love you.
It's all out of love.
You're my older brother, and I love you.
So, moving on, we've talked about Lars Sullivan a little bit. We talked about his racial comments that were made earlier. His Twitter account's now been deleted. Not sure what that means. But we are going to get to see Lars Sullivan in his first sanctioned WWE match.
Yeah.
Coming up next week at
67 minutes into Raw.
The whole show. We only get one match.
And for Dane, 67 minutes is an actual time. So
yeah, that's what I meant.
So, don't ask him to tell you how long that is because he won't be able to. But he can do that as soon as he can find that $35
It took
tank.
about 13:62. That's how many minutes.
So, how about the Undertaker or the Undertaker returning to Raw this coming Monday?
I have mixed feelings. Here's why.
Because we didn't get to see him at WrestleMania.
Before everybody that's listening is like, "What?"
I'm still
I
super
have
salty
mixed
about
feelings
that, by the way.
because I absolutely love it every single time that music hits, that gong rings. Super excited, just like I have been for 100 years.
Do we see Goldberg on Monday?
Yes.
You think so?
I do.
Absolutely. With it being that close to the Super Show.
And I think that's going to be cool to see from a nostalgia aspect.
Well, I still remember seeing it at the Royal Rumble that year when Goldberg and Taker were in the Rumble and those two came nose to nose.
Yeah.
And that was the first time we had ever seen that.
Absolutely. I kind of wish and I kind of hope that they don't bring Goldberg out with him on Monday. Let's have the confrontation in the ring.
Sure.
Like, obviously that would be in the ring if it was on Monday, but you know what I mean. Like, let's have it right before we start throwing blows, because I said it on the show. That's probably the match I'm most excited to see.
I could care less what happens on the rest of it.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen Triple H, we've seen Orton.
And we've seen that match.
We've
seen that match done to death.
Months. I might be a little more interested in Strowman Lashley.
That should be a good match.
It's not going to be pretty.
No, but you know what? You might get to see for the first time somebody pick up and toss Strowman around.
Yeah.
We haven't seen.
I'm gonna let you say it. What's it going to be?
It's going to be. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
3,
Bring it.
2, 1. Smash Mouth.
There we go.
That's what it's going to be.
and it will. And so we'll take her and Goldberg, because it can't be anything else.
No, you're right.
Neither one of those two matches can be wrestling matches. Goldberg capable of wrestling, absolutely. Lashley capable of wrestling a technical match, absolutely.
Strowman,
nope. Taker, nope.
No.
So it has to be Smash Mouth. They've got to get in and they've got to fight.
Yeah.
Brawl.
No. All right, moving on.
Did you say brawl?
Brawl. Oh, okay.
Oh.
BRAWL.
That's not what I heard.
That's not what I heard either.
So we're going to kind of wrap this up.
Help with your 70-year-old years.
Before
Are you going to be watching from seat 4B?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sure he will.
Just checking.
That was where that thing was seated with his father. So to wrap this whole conversation up.
Let's just end that one. Let's not wrap it up. Let's just end it.
Well, he probably didn't wrap it up.
No!
But the war to come. So, are we going to get a wrestling war like we got in the 90s?
To be honest, I hope so.
No.
No?
I think fans now are more educated than we were back then. I mean, you had die-hard, hardcore wrestling fans back then.
Right.
Absolutely. But I just don't see it happening the same way. I feel like it's going to be a clear-cut, quicker, one or the other is going to win. I
Kind
think...
of like the TNA one.
Yeah, I mean, they still no chance. AEW is already better than TNA, for the most part.
Sure.
And
The production value is greater.
It's already better, in my opinion. And this TNA had its moments that were really, really, really great. Don't get me wrong. Early on.
Well, and they still did fine until they tried to go head-to-head with the Juggernaut.
Right, and I don't think there's going to be a war. I think we see a wrestling world that coexists, and there's a clear-cut second best.
That'd be great.
And I think that'll be
question.
AEW.
You think the second best is going to be AEW? I'm going to say that the question is, which one of them
It's gotta
becomes
be
number
second
2?
best.
I,
And if it becomes WWE, how does Vince react to that? Because he's been number 1 for how long?
So
That's where you see...
But here, let's
that's
yes.
Why, that's why I'm like,
yes,
if
but
they start to take over, Vince is going to do something. And
well,
there's
but
gonna
here's
eventually
the
be a
here's the
war
bigger
in
problem. When you're Vince McMahon, you're the CEO of a publicly traded company, which means if you start to underperform, there's a group of folks called your board of directors that can hold a vote of no confidence and remove you from your position.
Yeah.
So we can't pretend like there's not a checks and balances system. There is, but
Right.
they haven't ever had to use it because it's just
Exactly.
been him.
Exactly.
But now you're going to see the emergence of a new brand. And the question is, it really, ultimately, for me, it depends on how WWE responds.
Do you see them remove Vince?
No.
No.
I see the company going out of business before Vince McMahon gives up his spot. He will sell his shares to a controlling owner before he walks away from the helm of that company.
I can see that happening.
I believe that his pride in what he's done with that organization, he would rather see it be sold to someone else than him have to be removed from his position. You got a question?
I got a question.
Go ahead.
What if he sold, this is fantasy land now. What if he sold his shares to Tony Khan? Ooh.
So I think he would. I think he would burn the headquarters down before he did that.
But we don't know.
We don't know.
But we don't know.
But we are in uncharted waters.
Because what AEW has a chance to prove, let's just, again, Fantasyland. What AEW has a chance to prove is that they are viable and they can roll out a product that is equal to or better than WWE. What would Vince McMahon would not want to see WWE die.
No.
So, why not sell it if Fantasyland, you're going to sell your shares to someone who can keep your vision alive and improve upon it?
Because I don't think he would.
What?
I think if you're Tony Khan, you put WWE out of business.
No, maybe.
I don't think you settle for anything less.
There's a lot.
How would you like to be the guy that put arguably the best businessman on the planet out of business?
I mean,
that's a huge milestone.
Shoot, I mean, well, it's
that's Taker losing at Mania.
No, we've seen that.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's equivalent to the first time he lost at Mania.
Yeah, it's unprecedented.
We've seen it twice.
You're going to have the guy in the front row with the eyes popped out of his head.
Yeah, like a Kid USA moment. So it was.
Those are shocking.
Yes,
as we've seen.
So that wraps up our wrestling world information for the night. Guys, it's now time for our weekly Wrestle Rewind trivia. So,
I'm going to try not to lose this.
the challenger,
So you're saying you weren't trying to lose the other 3 times
who
you got
is
beat?
now 0-4 at Wrestle Rewind trivia, is Smokey Z. And Double K is undefeated as the reigning, defending, undisputed Wrestle Rewind champion.
Not 0-4. Not yet. Anyway.
You're 0-3, sorry. 0-3.
Anytime you start any sort of competition with, I'm going to try not to lose this time, means you've been getting your ass handed to you.
I did not get my ass handed to me last time. You beat me by 1.
Did you win?
It's not stuff I get
Did you did you win?
No.
Then you got
All
your
right.
ass handed to you.
So, here we go.
Hey.
Double K, are you ready? Smokey Z, are you ready?
Yep.
First question. AJ
Are
Styles.
these multiple choice? What are we doing?
These are multiple choice.
Okay.
I will let you know if it's a... Well, I will let you know if it's not multiple choice. How about that? AJ Styles made his WWE debut at what event?
Like his most recent one.
debuts that.
His current WWE tenure, he made his debut at what event?
Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
It was the Royal Rumble.
See, when I know it, my strategy still.
So
I'm not just.
I wanted to see if you were
I'm not just going to blurt an answer.
I
out.
want you guys to know that coming next week to Wrestle Rewind Trivia, we will have buzzers, and you will have to buzz in for your answer
Sweet.
to eliminate this whole Double K picking second because he wants to hear what you have to say first.
Well, he's got a buzzer. Oh no, that's his vape.
Right. Which golden-voiced WWE superstar has been a frequent tag team partner of Rusev? Is it Fandango, Tyler Breeze, Michael Cole, or Aiden English?
In English.
Aiden English is correct. The ravishing Russian Lana is an in-ring competitor as well as a ringside advisor. At Money in the Bank 2017, she challenged this superstar for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Was it Becky Lynch, Naomi, Sasha Banks, or Nia Jax?
Is it Naomi?
Smokey Z's in at Naomi.
Naomi.
Double K says Naomi. Naomi is correct. You guys are tied at 3. This next one is not multiple choice. Lana has been a regular on this popular reality show.
Total Divas.
It is Total Divas.
Why are we getting so many Rusev Lana questions tonight?
I don't create these.
Does he have a thing for Lana?
You got these from the WWE Russia book.
The phenomenal AJ Styles calls this southern state his home.
Georgia.
Georgia is correct. At WrestleMania 34, one of the most hotly anticipated matches of the evening involved AJ Styles defending the WWE Championship against what rival? This is not multiple choice.
You said WrestleMania 34.
WrestleMania 34, one of the most anticipated matches of the evening. What rival did he compete against? I've seriously got to get some Jeopardy music to play while you guys mull this over.
Bad part is I can see his outfit, but I can't see his opponent. God.
Do you guys want a hint?
Yeah.
Smokey Z, you want a hint?
Yeah.
He has faced this opponent before.
Didn't we just have a whole conversation about them recycling storylines? Everybody in WWE's faced everybody before at least 6 times.
Okay. He has faced this opponent before, not in the WWE.
Samoa Joe.
Yeah, I'm just going to say Samoa Joe. You got to play defense.
You are both incorrect. It was Shinsuke Nakamura.
Right. I just had to play. I had to play defense there.
Right. This is why we need the buzzers so that doesn't happen anymore.
Well, I can still buzz in and play defense.
Well, that's true, but then you get the opportunity to answer it with a different name.
Oh, so what you're saying is if I buzz in, he can't answer if I get it right?
If you get it right, that's correct.
Okay.
So
No more ties. So, glorious Bobby Roode grew up playing what sport in Ontario, Canada? This is not multiple choice.
Hockey?
Well, it's Canada, guys, so yes. Hockey would be the right answer.
Yeah. They all grew up playing hockey.
Eh? Bobby Roode
Don't you know?
recently held the Raw Tag Team Championship with which superstar?
Chad Gable.
Chad Gable.
That's correct. When he isn't competing in WWE rings, starring in his own reality show, or making movies, the A-lister The Miz loves rooting for this NFL team.
Browns.
Cleveland.
That is correct. I wasn't sure you guys were going to get that one.
Well, yeah, I mean.
From Cleveland.
The Miz defended...
He and I worked out together while he was wearing a Cleveland Browns shirt.
That would...
Yeah.
That solidifies it for you.
Yeah.
The Miz defended this championship at WrestleMania 34 in a triple threat match against Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. Which WWE championship was it?
Intercontinental title.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct. The belt he held forever and a day.
The only one he's
Made it
had
relevant
for a
again.
while.
WWE superstar and former United States champion Rusev hails from what Eastern European country?
Russia.
Bulgaria.
It is Bulgaria.
Boom, baby! That's a lead, is what we call that.
Double K just took a 1-point lead.
Tommy just called him the Bulgarian brute in an earlier question, but I'm just saying.
At WrestleMania 31,
Even the sound guy knew that.
Rusev
And
made
look at
an
him.
epic ring entrance riding a tank. Not one you can get for $35. He then defended his
Sorry,
United
Dane.
States Championship against which opponent?
All right, so I was running my mouth and missed the whole first
Yeah,
couple
I missed
sentences of that. So
At WrestleMania 31, Rusev made an epic ring entrance riding a tank. He then defended his United States Championship against which opponent?
Was it John Cena?
Cena.
It was John Cena.
Because I remember watching him come in on the tank.
Which singles championship has Bobby Roode held?
The U.S. title.
U.S. title.
There would have been two correct answers to that. It would have been the U.S. title or the NXT championship. Lana.
Wait, didn't he have the 24/7 here just recently too? He had it for about 5 minutes.
Oh, that's true. Lana is known as the Ravishing Blank.
Russian.
I don't know how you could screw that one up.
I mean, Russia,
I'm surprised
Bulgaria.
you didn't say Bulgarian.
The ravishing South Carolina.
AJ Styles has a variety of finishing moves. However, greater than 50% of his matches are won with this one.
Phenomenal forearm.
Mm-hmm.
That is correct. It is the phenomenal forearm.
When did he start using that as his finisher?
I mean,
Because I remember, like in TNA, he didn't use that.
I think it's. I mean, within the last probably 3-4 years, probably.
The Miz, true or false? The Miz is the proud papa to a baby girl.
True.
That is correct. Double K still up by 1.
Wait, what'd you say?
Double K still up by 1. And we are on our final 10 questions.
Oh, I thought you were going to say final question.
Nope, final 10 questions.
Dang. Woo.
Which WWE diva has held the Women's Championship on the most occasions before the belt was retired in 2010?
Say that one more time. Read it one more time.
Which WWE diva has held the Women's Championship on the most occasions before the belt was retired in 2010? It is multiple choice.
Okay.
Mickie James, Mae Young, Lita, or Trish Stratus?
Trish Stratus.
Mm-hmm.
Trish Stratus is the correct answer. The infamous Harvey Whippleman is the only man to have ever held the women's championship. What name did he appear under during his match for this title?
Oh.
Was it Glitter, Harvina, Stardust, or Bombshell?
Stardust.
I'm going to say Harvina.
Harvina is correct.
What was it? Shot in the dark.
Yeah. No comment. 4B.
True. True or false? The women's championship was vacant for nearly 3 years in the 1990s. I stepped up my level on these.
True.
I'm gonna say false.
It was true. Double K now takes the lead with 2 points.
I was just trying to go opposite.
Which
Hopefully getting the point.
WWE Hall of Famer won their second women's championship at WrestleMania 1? Was it Mae Young, the Fabulous Moolah, Sherry Martel, or Wendy Richter?
Fabulous Moolah.
Wendy Richter.
It was the Fabulous
Hey!
Moolah. Smokey Z gets a point back on Double K, now maintaining a 1-point lead. You're not out of this one yet, Smokey.
But you're not in the lead either, so
No.
just thought I'd throw it out.
Which WWE legend held the record for the longest reign as a women's champion before its retirement in 2010, according to official WWE records? Was it Sable, Bertha Faye, Leilani Kai, or the Fabulous Moolah?
Fabulous Moolah.
Moolah.
Both of you are incorrect. It was Bertha Faye.
I don't remember Bertha Faye. I'm going to be completely honest with you.
During the 2002 Survivor Series pay-per-view, a famous hardcore match for the Women's WWE Championship took place. Who were the two competitors in this match? Was it Chyna and Sable, Trish Stratus and Victoria, Lita and Molly Holly, or Molly Holly and Victoria?
Let's say Lita and Molly Holly.
Double K?
What was the second one you said? What was
Trish Stratus and Victoria.
I'm going to say that.
That is correct. It was Trish Stratus and Victoria.
That was like my first guess, but I was like,
There are 4 questions remaining. You still have a chance. Which WWE Diva was the first person to have held both the WWE Women's Championship and the WWE Divas Championship? Was it Michelle McCool, Gail Kim, Layla, or Beth Phoenix? The first one to hold both the Women's Championship and the Divas Championship.
It's a good question.
yeah.
Again, your options are Michelle McCool, Gail Kim, Layla, and Beth Phoenix.
I'm going to say Beth Phoenix.
I'm gonna say Michelle McCool.
It was Michelle McCool.
Yeah.
It was.
Smokey Z draws back within 1.
It was either or.
Yeah.
According to official WWE records, how many different women held the WWE Women's Championship before it was retired in 2010? Was it 29, 49, 39, or 59? How many women held the WWE Women's Championship before it was retired in 2010? Smokey Z?
Say 49.
49 in by Smokey Z. Double K?
I don't feel like it was that many. But I'm going to say 49 to play some defense.
It was neither. It was 29.
I wanted to say it, but
So Smokey Z, we're on question number 9 of the final 10. You must get this right to stay in the game. Double K. With this being the final question, you will get first opportunity to answer.
So is this it?
If he doesn't get it correct, it is.
Oh, okay. Got it.
In May 1999, Deborah competed against Sable in an evening gown match on Raw is War. The match was considered controversial because the then commissioner ruled that the winner was the lady who had her gown removed, contrary to the usual rules. Who was the WWF commissioner at this time?
Ooh, in 99.
In 1999. Was it The Rock, Shawn Michaels, Sergeant Slaughter, or Mick Foley?
I've got it. It's one of two in that group.
You will get first chance.
99. Shawn Michaels.
That is incorrect. Smokey Z.
Was it Sergeant Slaughter?
It was not Sergeant Slaughter.
Really?
It was Mick Foley.
Oh,
Really?
It was Mick Foley.
that's my second guess.
Really? That wasn't one of my guesses at all.
Really?
So that means we will go to the 10th question.
Really?
Double K still, you will get first guess. Smokey Z, you need this correct to stay in the game. This question is not multiple choice.
Great.
Unofficially, the final WWE Women's Champion was Lay Cool. The tag team consisted of Layla and Michelle McCool. However, officially, which one was the champion?
Can I hear it used in a sentence, please? I'm just kidding. Oh, Layla.
Smokey Z.
Michelle McCool.
The answer was Layla. Ladies and gentlemen, you're a winner.
Oh, baby!
And the still defending undisputed Wrestle Rewind Trivia Champion is Double K. So, Smokey Z, I'm going to need to get you, didn't I give you, one of those WWE official rule books? I feel like you need to spend some time reading it. You need to spend some time reading it to catch up on some WWE history.
Clearly.
So, folks, this has been another episode of Wrestle Rewind. It is a pleasure, as always, when you guys join us. We thank the live listeners as well as those that will listen to us in the future days to come. I also want to say proudly that our platform is now listened to on 4 different countries in multiple states throughout the United States, and with a listening party of greater than 1,500 active listeners.
That's crazy.
We are proud to continue to bring you guys entertainment every week. This show will air live every Thursday, at 8:30 p.m. Next week will be a very special episode of Wrestle Rewind, as I will be out of commission. Double K is going to host next week's episode with Smokey Z.
4-time champ.
Four-time champ Double K.
Get it right, Mean Gene.
Got it. The 4-time champ Double K will co-host with Smokey Z and a very special guest, a man. There'll be more enlightenment on that next week when that individual shows up. But
so are you saying we're going to have a man here or a man? How does that work?
it's a man.
All right, fair enough.
So we will go with that, and
What do you think about that?
you folks will have to
Maybe you should study.
you'll have to join in next week as we wrap up our festivities here, as always, at Wrestle Rewind. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for taking the time to join us. Our first live Facebook broadcast tonight, so that's been new for us.
That's new. That's new.
But, folks, I'm Tommy T,
4-time champ Double K.
Smokey Z.
and we will see you the next time the bell tolls.
My arm was getting tired.